Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well informed. Today, we're tackling something that, well, it touches every single one of us aging. And for a long time, I think we've all wondered, is there anything we can really do about it? Well, get ready for some genuinely exciting news. Longevity research, it's absolutely booming. And it turns out our biological age isn't set in stone, it's surprisingly malleable. For this deep dive, we've really immersed ourselves in some cutting edge sources. We're talking crucial research from the National Institutes of Health and some really insightful reporting from NPR. Our mission: to distill the most impactful nuggets of knowledge about how we age, and maybe more importantly, what can actually be done, slowing it down, maybe even reversing some parts of it. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and it's incredibly important work because, zooming out a bit, aging isn't just about wrinkles or gray hair,
Yeah.
right? It's actually the leading cause of disease and disability across the globe. Think about things like cancer, heart disease, dementia.
Mm.
They're all heavily, heavily linked to the aging process itself. So what's really compelling here is the idea that maybe instead of just treating each disease one by one as it pops up,
Hmm.
addressing aging at its root, at the source, could be a much more powerful way to reduce that huge global health burden.
Right. So let's start right there. The fundamental question. When scientists talk about aging, what exactly are they trying to get at? The NIH, for instance, they frame it as a kind of gradual degradation over time. But there's a lot packed into that simple phrase, isn't there? When we talk about degradation, what does that actually look like, say, down at the molecular level? Is there a good way to picture it, like an
Oh,
analogy?
absolutely. That degradation you mentioned, it really refers to the buildup, the accumulating damage at the molecular and cellular levels. Dr. Tony West Corey, who studies brain aging out at Stanford, he uses a really relatable analogy. He compares the human body to a brand new car. You get it off the lot, it's perfect, pristine, everything works just right. But, as you drive it over the years, use it, expose it to the elements, it gets wear and tear. Eventually, things start to break down. Dysfunction creeps in. Our bodies are sort of similar. They accumulate defects, damage. Now, the difference is, unlike a car, our bodies do have repair mechanisms built in. Pretty amazing, actually. But even those systems can wear out over time. And when that happens, enough damage piles up that it starts affecting how whole organs and systems function. And that's what we recognize as aging.
That car analogy really clicks. It makes it clear this isn't just some passive decline we have to accept anymore, is it? It feels like a massive shift in how science is thinking about this. I mean, for so long, aging was just inevitable, a given. But now, thanks to your researchers, funded by NIH and others, we're actively digging into its molecular basis, looking for ways to step in to intervene. Which, okay, brings us to a really crucial point. How do you know if a treatment, intervention, is actually working? If you don't even know how fast someone is aging in the first place. This is where that concept of biological age comes in, right? Can you help us understand what that really means? It's more than just the number of candles on your cake.
Exactly. Your biological age, it's basically a measure reflecting all that accumulated molecular damage we were just talking
Hmm.
about. And yeah, it often differs, sometimes quite significantly, from your chronological age, your age in years. What's really fascinating and kind of key here is that these differences in biological age can show up years, even decades, before any obvious age-related diseases appear. So to really figure out if a treatment aimed at slowing aging is doing anything, you absolutely need a way to measure this biological age. That's precisely why researchers have been working so hard to develop these tools they call aging clocks, and maybe even more accurately, aging speedometers.
Aging clocks and speedometers. That's incredible. Okay, so what's one of the most exciting tools they've come up with? Something that can actually measure our pace of aging.
Yeah, one of the real breakthroughs is something called Dunedin Pace. It was developed by Dr. Daniel Belsky and his team. And it's truly fascinating because it's not just an aging clock, like telling you your biological age number. It's designed to be an actual aging speedometer.
Right.
It aims to tell you how fast or slow you're aging, like right now.
Mhm.
It gives you a real-time snapshot of your current aging trajectory.
Wow. A speedometer for aging. How does that
Mhm.
even work? That sounds incredibly complex.
It's actually pretty clever. It works by measuring chemical modifications to your DNA. These are called DNA methylation. You can think of them as tiny molecular tags, almost like punctuation marks on your DNA that change with age, but also in response to environment, lifestyle, things like that. So Dr. Belsky's team developed Dunedin Pace using data from a really famous study, the Dunedin study, massive long-term health study, followed over 1,000 people born in New Zealand back in the early 70s. These folks had incredibly comprehensive health checkups, multiple times from age 26 all the way up to 45. And critically, this included DNA methylation data and results from 19 different biomarkers that track how well their organ systems were functioning. Then, using machine learning powerful stuff, they looked for patterns in the DNA methylation at age 45 that strongly correlated with how those 19 biomarkers had changed over the previous 20 years. That's how they built Donedin-Pace, and its predictive power is quite remarkable. A faster Donedin-Pace score, meaning you're aging faster according to this measure, it correlates directly with a higher risk of poor health, developing chronic diseases, or even dying earlier.
Wow, okay, just imagine knowing your personal pace of aging. That's huge. So how might doctors actually use that information? Like, in a practical way for you or me, could it change routine stuff like screenings?
Exactly. That's the potential Dr. Bilski talks about. Say you're 45, chronologically, but your Donedin-Pace score suggests you're biologically aging quite a bit faster. Your doctor might then say, okay, maybe we should start certain cancer screenings a year or two earlier than the standard guidelines suggest. And conversely, if your pace is slower, maybe you could safely wait a bit longer for some screenings. It's a big step towards making medicine for aging truly personalized.
That's genuinely fascinating. And then there's this other layer, the idea that our organs can age independently. What does that mean for preventing problems?
Oh, it's a huge implication. Dr. Weiss-Corey's research is the same researcher with the car analogy. He's shown that different organs inside the very same person can actually age at different speeds. So you might have a heart that's biologically older than, say, your liver or your kidneys or vice versa. And he's discovered that by measuring specific proteins circulating in your blood, scientists can get clues about organ-specific aging and even predict the risk of diseases linked to those specific organs. This opens the door for much more targeted preventive care, rather than just a one-size-fits-all approach based only on your birth year.
Right, makes sense. And building on that, some listeners might have heard of another test, the Grimmage test. Can you briefly explain what that one's measuring?
Sure. Grimmage is another well-known aging clock, also based on DNA methylation. It's essentially designed to predict your lifespan and, importantly, your health span, your years of healthy life. It does this by gauging whether your DNA age, based on those methylation patterns, is younger or older than your actual chronological age. So it gives you another powerful insight into your personal aging trajectory and the health risks that might come with it.
Okay, so this brings us to the really big question, the one everyone wants to know. Can we actually slow this down or, even reverse aspects of aging? Let's maybe start with the brain, because I know some truly groundbreaking work's been done there. How does aging typically affect our brains?
Yeah, the brain is definitely a critical area, and one of the really serious effects of aging is on the brain's function. See, as we get older, there tends to be a decrease in something called synaptic plasticity. That's basically the ability of our neurons, our brain cells, to strengthen their connections and form new ones. It's fundamental for learning and memory. This decline happens particularly in the hippocampus, a brain region that's absolutely critical for learning and forming new memories. So this loss of plasticity can lead to cognitive impairment, and it's a key feature in many neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's.
That sounds like a pretty fundamental challenge, losing that plasticity. But I understand Dr. Weiss-Corey's research, the same one we've mentioned, has offered some real glimmers of hope here. Can you walk us through what his lab discovered?
Yeah, his team's work has been, well, truly remarkable, really eye-opening. Back in 2014, they published a study showing that blood from young mice actually had beneficial effects on the brains of aged mice. When they gave older mice plasma from young mice, it actually changed gene expression patterns in the brain related to plasticity. And get this, it improved their learning and memory abilities. Then, in a follow-up study, they found that plasma from human umbilical cords, so very young human plasma, had similar rejuvenating effects on old mice. That's when they really started hunting for those specific factors responsible. And they zeroed in on a particular protein called TIMP-2. This protein, TIMP-2, is found at higher levels in young plasma, and its levels naturally decline with age, at least in the mouse hippocampus. What they found was just astonishing, really. Injecting aged mice with TIMP-2 boosted its levels in their brains. It promoted plasticity in the hippocampus and improved their learning and memory. And just as importantly, when they deliberately removed TIMP-2 from the young cord blood, all those beneficial effects vanished.
That's incredible. So it wasn't just slowing things down. It looked like they were actually reversing specific aspects of brain aging, at least in mice. What's the bigger picture here? What does this imply for how we think about aging and maybe future treatments down the line?
Look, the broader significance is profound, really. These findings strongly suggest that at least some consequences of aging aren't necessarily permanent. It's not just a one-way street of decline. It suggests reversibility is possible, which is huge. And practically, it opens up these exciting new avenues for potentially developing plasma-based treatments, or treatments targeting factors like TIMP-2,
for neurodegeneration in humans in the future. I mean, these are therapeutic options we couldn't have seriously imagined even a decade or so ago.
That is incredible science, truly mind-bending stuff. But okay, let's bring it back down to earth. So what does this all mean for you right now?
Mm.
Are there things we can actually do today, based on this growing understanding, to influence our own pace of aging?
Absolutely. And maybe the advice isn't flashy, but it's incredibly solid. Dr. Daniel Belsky, the Dunedin Pace researcher, he often describes the advice as kind of unexciting, but it's undeniably proven. He says, physical activity is the closest thing to a fountain of youth that we know of. Simple as that. And Dr. Luigi Ferrucci, another prominent aging researcher, takes it even further. He states, quite powerfully, the magic pill is already here. What he's talking about are those core lifestyle choices we often hear about, right? Consistent physical activity, healthy eating patterns, not smoking, maintaining a healthy weight, getting good quality sleep, plus staying on top of preventive care recommended vaccines, cancer screenings, and managing conditions like high blood pressure and high cholesterol. These aren't just nice to haves. These are proven levers that when you put them together, the data suggests they can add up to 10 years to your life expectancy.
10 years. That's,
Right.
that's a really significant return on investment for those habits. Definitely not unexciting when you put it like that. And one specific lifestyle intervention that's been really well studied, especially tying into healthy eating, is calorie restriction, or CR. Can you tell us a bit more about what CR involves and what the research, like the calorie study, has shown?
Yeah, calorie restriction or CR basically means consistently reducing your total calorie intake, but, and this is crucial, while still getting all the essential nutrients your body needs. You're not starving yourself of vitamins or minerals. Now, in animal studies, everything from yeast to flies to rodents, CR has pretty consistently shown it can increase longevity and delay the onset of age-related diseases. So the big question was, does this hold true for humans?